If you're still watching this right now, there's a reason why you may not be able to explain with ordinary language. Not everyone was meant to hear what I'm about to share. Some messages carry a kind of resonance, a frequency that only certain people can receive, those who have walked through fire without understanding why, those who have been struck by pressure they never provoked, those who have held something luminous inside them that darkness could not ignore. If that's you, you already know. You've felt the weight of unjust attacks, the confusion of being targeted with no rational explanation, the loneliness of watching people stand nearby while you endured what should never have happened to you. And yet something is shifting now, quietly, unmistakably, in the field around you. The same people who remained silent, who witnessed your struggle and said nothing, are beginning to feel a stirring within themselves. Not a simple emotion, not a passing thought, but a deeper unrest that has a spiritual texture to it, a tension that won't let them return to comfort, a conviction that keeps rising even when they try to suppress it. Some are feeling anger they can't name. Some are feeling shame without knowing exactly why. Some are waking up with the sense that a line has been crossed and that neutrality is no longer possible. This is not an accident. It is a sequence, an initiated unfolding, and you are at the center of it. You didn't merely survive what happened to you. You activated something irreversible, something that once awakened cannot be put back to sleep. You may not have recognized it yet, because transformation rarely announces itself with fireworks. Sometimes it shows up as a new steadiness in your voice, a refusal to collapse, a clearer boundary, sharper discernment. Sometimes it appears as a strange calm where anxiety used to live. Sometimes it arrives as a sudden sense of direction after months of fog. But the evidence is there, and it is beginning to surface in ways that will soon become impossible for others to deny. Stay with me, because what I'm about to reveal can change how you interpret everything that has happened to you, and more importantly, what is about to happen next. What came against you wasn't personal, even though it felt intensely personal. It wasn't about something you did wrong. Even if you searched for reasons, replaying conversations, scrutinizing your choices, trying to locate the mistake that could explain the hostility, the truth is that the assault had little to do with logic, circumstance, or even ordinary human emotion. It was spiritual interference triggered by your energetic signature. There's an authority woven into your existence that some adversaries sensed before you consciously recognized it. That may sound abstract, but think about your lived experience. People reacted to you with disproportionate intensity. They assumed motives you did not have. They projected narratives onto you that did not fit. They treated your presence like a threat when you had offered nothing but your authenticity. That reaction is not always about what you did. Sometimes it is about what you were becoming. This distinction matters because many people lose years trying to understand what they did to deserve an attack that was never earned in the first place. You did nothing. That is precisely the point. The attack was causeless in the material sense because its origin did not begin in the material world. It came from a realm where light and shadow recognize each other instantly, where power is felt long before it is fully expressed, where intention carries weight even before behavior becomes visible. When you step into a new level of spiritual identity, the field around you begins to shift. At first, it can be subtle, imperceptible to most people. But in unseen dimensions, the change is loud. Frequencies alter. Old patterns destabilize. Energetic ecosystems that depended on your former silence, your former self-doubt, your former willingness to shrink suddenly find themselves exposed. What once thrived in the dimness of your previous state becomes uncomfortable under the pressure of your emerging clarity. This is why darkness does not always attack out of strategy. Often it attacks out of panic. It reacts before it understands why it's reacting. And that is exactly what happened to you. The forces that moved against you were not necessarily calculated. They were reactive, desperate, urgent. Something in them sensed that if they did not strike quickly, you would rise beyond their reach into a level of self-possession where their influence could not touch you again. So they attacked without cause, hoping to knock you off balance before you recognize what you carry. But here's where their plan backfired spectacularly. Every weapon they formed, every word they whispered, every alliance they gathered did not destroy you. It revealed them. There is a law in the spiritual realm that many people do not understand. Hidden motives cannot remain hidden when they are directed at someone marked by divine purpose. The moment they moved against you unjustly, it was as if a spotlight turned on. Their intentions, what they tried to disguise as concern, opinion, policy, common sense, or just the way things are, began to come into view. Not because you demanded it, and not because you orchestrated it, but because that is how the universe responds when someone is touched without permission. An unjust strike sets off a chain reaction. And in that chain reaction, everyone connected to the situation is pulled under scrutiny. Those who participated actively, those who encouraged it quietly, and those who watched while pretending to be neutral. This is why you may notice something. Now certain people can't look you in the eye the way they used to. Some avoid your name. Some overcompensate with friendliness. Some act irritated for no reason because the truth is pressing against their internal narrative. Others unexpectedly begin to soften. They start asking questions. They start offering small gestures they never offered before. These shifts are not random. They are the field correcting itself. You need to understand something about the nature of spiritual attacks. They are almost always disproportionate to what triggered them. Someone with a divine assignment does not need to do anything outwardly threatening to become a target. Sometimes your presence alone is enough. The purity in your heart, the discipline forming in your daily choices, the honesty returning to your voice, the clarity settling in your mind. These qualities create contrast. And for certain people, especially those who have built their lives on avoidance, illusion, or unhealed pain, contrast feels like exposure. Without meaning to, you became a mirror. You reflected back to them what they refused to become, what they abandoned, what they betrayed within themselves, what they are now too proud to reclaim. And instead of doing the internal work required to rise, they chose the easier path to try to drag you down to where they feel safe. That is also why forgiveness is so powerful in situations like yours. Not because they deserve it, and not because you should pretend the harm was acceptable, but because your refusal to descend into bitterness kept you in a higher frequency band. While they were scheming, you were growing. While they were obsessing over your downfall, you were healing. While they were trying to damage your reputation, something greater was shaping your character. Each moment you chose restraint over retaliation, you passed a test most people fail. You demonstrated spiritual maturity under fire, and the universe responds to that kind of maturity with protection, elevation, and favor that cannot be permanently blocked by human interference. Now let's speak plainly about why the attack felt so sudden, so out of nowhere. It is because you accelerated spiritually faster than the opposing forces expected. You began shifting internally, clearing old wounds, refusing old patterns, aligning with truth at a pace that created urgency in the realm of shadow. The moment you entered territory that darkness once controlled, panic set in. Reactivity followed. Irrationality emerged. This is why the attack made no sense, even to the people who carried it out. Many of them could not articulate why they felt threatened by you. They only knew they felt something. And because they lacked self-awareness, they translated that sensation into hostility. But the threat was not logical. It was energetic. You were stepping into authority, and each step you took was a step away from the influence they once had over your environment, your identity, your choices, your future. There is another layer most people miss. Your calling is not small or private. What you are here to do affects collective consciousness. You are not only healing for yourself, you are shifting patterns for everyone connected to you, family lines, relational dynamics, workplace systems, community frequencies. Your life carries weight in dimensions most people never perceive. And when a soul carries that kind of destiny, opposition intensifies proportionally. Resistance often reveals magnitude. The intensity of what came against you is not evidence of your weakness. It is evidence of your significance. So hear this clearly: the attacks you faced were not random chaos. They were confirmation. You were struck heavily because you are designed to rise heavily. What tried to break you accidentally measured you. It demonstrated by its own desperation how much your emergence mattered. Before we go deeper, I want you to make a simple inner declaration. You don't need to perform it for anyone. You don't need to prove anything. Just take a breath and acknowledge this truth silently. If you wish, you are willing to see what has been hidden. You are willing to recognize the truth as it rises. Declarations like this matter because the universe responds to intention. Confusion loops when people remain passive. Clarity accelerates when people become conscious participants. And if this is resonating with you, if something in your chest tightens with recognition, if your mind quiets as though it has been waiting for these words, stay connected to this frequency, not as superstition, but as alignment. Because what is happening in the hearts of those around you is not merely emotional. It is spiritual. Something has been stirred. Conscience is being activated. The internal record of what occurred, who acted, who enabled, who stayed silent, has not disappeared. When someone marked by heaven is attacked without cause, the Most High does not remain passive. A record is written the moment the first blow lands. And when the time comes for truth to surface, pressure is released onto the hearts of everyone connected to the situation. This pressure exposes internal conflict, awakens dormant justice, and forces confrontation with the truth they tried to avoid. That is why the neutrals are becoming uneasy. That is why the doubters are beginning to feel convicted. That is why those who once dismissed you are finding it harder to sleep, harder to laugh, harder to justify what they allowed. Some will respond to this pressure by hardening. Others will respond by changing. But either way, the field is moving. The silence is breaking. The energy is returning to balance. And you, without chasing revenge, without begging to be understood, without proving yourself to those who were never capable of seeing you clearly, will watch truth rise as naturally as dawn. Because what was done in shadow cannot remain there forever, especially not when directed at someone who carries light. People who quietly supported the attack now feel spiritually disturbed. Not everyone will admit it, and not everyone will express it in the same way, but the disturbance is real. This isn't coincidence. This is divine orchestration. Their spirit is responding before their mind can interpret what's happening. That's why the unease feels irrational to them, why they can't quite think their way out of it, why distractions don't work the way they used to, why the usual excuses suddenly feel thin. They are feeling the weight of what came against you because in the quantum field, every action carries energetic consequence. And that consequence doesn't vanish when people pretend they did nothing. It returns. It rises. It manifests in consciousness as restlessness, as agitation, as fury that doesn't match the moment, as an inability to remain silent any longer. The injustice was too visible to remain unaddressed. Even if it was hidden behind polite language, even if it was wrapped in plausible deniability, even if it was carried out through whispers rather than open confrontation, something about it crossed a line. Darkness always overplays its hand when it attacks someone who walks in alignment. It can't help it. It doesn't know how to measure itself around purity. It doesn't understand restraint. It doesn't anticipate what happens when it tries to dominate a person whose inner life is anchored beyond fear. Your adversaries didn't realize their actions would illuminate their own character. They didn't understand that moving against someone disciplined, spiritually centered, and internally clean would reveal their corruption, by contrast. Now everyone who watched can see the difference, not because you demanded it, not because you campaigned for sympathy, but because contrast is a form of revelation. Your peace exposed their chaos. Your humility exposed their pride. Your restraint exposed their hostility. Your consistency exposed their inconsistency. Your quiet endurance exposed the theatrical nature of their outrage. And in that exposure, a spiritual divide has formed. People can now see clearly which side of truth they were standing on, and they can feel the cost of where they placed themselves. There is something else happening beneath the surface that you need to recognize. Heaven is amplifying your story. You may not feel seen yet in the way you once wished you were, but something is changing in how people perceive you. They are beginning to see you through a spiritual lens instead of a purely natural one. What does that mean in practical terms? It means your character is becoming louder than the rumors. It means your consistency is outweighing the narrative that was built against you. It means people are starting to sense what you carry, not just what happened to you. They're perceiving the purity of your heart. The quiet strength you maintained, the resilience you demonstrated when everything inside you could have shattered. Human beings are not only rational creatures, they are energetic beings. And when they witness a level of spiritual endurance that refuses to become bitter, something awakens in them. Compassion stirs. Honor rises. Respect forms. Sometimes it forms quietly, privately, without public confession. But it forms. The fury they're feeling is a response to revelation. It is not simply anger at the situation. It is anger at their own blindness. It is the shock of realizing they were wrong. The ache of recognizing how easily they were misled, the unsettling awareness that they abandoned discernment too quickly. Some are furious at the ones who led the attack because they sensed they were manipulated. Some are furious at themselves because they stayed silent to protect comfort. Some are furious because they cannot reconcile the image they had of themselves, good, fair, reasonable, with the reality of what they allowed. Divine timing is everything. This reaction didn't come earlier because the spiritual atmosphere wasn't prepared. Hearts were still sleeping. Eyes were still clouded. Judgments were still distorted by groupthink, by fear, by self-interest, by the need to belong. But the moment heaven decided it was time for truth to emerge, something shifted. It is as if a veil thinned. It is as if a weight moved. It is as if people suddenly gained access to clarity that was unavailable before. Now they can see what you endured. They can feel the imbalance. They can sense the wrongness of what occurred. And their hearts are responding accordingly, not because you convinced them, not because you argued your case perfectly, but because truth has a frequency. Once it is fully activated, it becomes difficult to deny. Here is what you must understand: heaven uses people as instruments of justice. That does not mean everyone becomes kind or wise overnight. It does not mean accountability happens in the neat, satisfying way your mind might want. It means the Most High stirs hearts so they become living witnesses to your journey. Their reactions aren't random emotional outbursts. They are part of a larger strategy. The unrest rising in them is preparation for your vindication. The pressure they feel is a signal that heaven is about to intervene in ways that will be impossible to miss. Their agitation confirms that the spiritual realm has reached a decision regarding your situation. This is the beginning of divine correction. Hearts are being prepared for what's about to be revealed, and soon everything done without cause will be exposed with absolute clarity. You may not know exactly how it will happen, through conversation, through circumstance, through sudden shifts in relationships, through information that surfaces at the right time. But you will recognize the pattern. What was hidden will no longer remain stable. What was supported in secret will begin to collapse under its own weight. If this resonates with something deep inside you, if you feel it touching a frequency you have been waiting to hear validated, then stay connected to what strengthens you. Stay connected to spaces where truth is spoken without apology, where spiritual laws are made visible, where transformation happens through understanding. Not as a performance, but as a form of alignment. Because what's happening around you now isn't merely social or circumstantial. It's divine. Heaven has entered your situation in ways you may not fully see yet, but you can feel the atmospheric shift. You sense something lifting. You notice clarity forming where there was once only confusion. You may even feel your nervous system responding: less hypervigilance, fewer spirals, more groundedness. That is not imagination. That is intervention. The Most High does not ignore injustice inflicted on those walking in purity. Heaven does not overlook cruelty delivered without cause. Heaven responds. And right now the response is unfolding in your favor. Every moment of your struggle was witnessed. Every tear counted. Every silent prayer recorded. Every night you questioned why this was happening. Every morning you forced yourself forward despite the weight nobody else could see. Heaven observed all of it. Those moments weren't wasted and they weren't forgotten. They created spiritual openings for divine justice to enter. And justice in the spiritual sense is not merely punishment for wrongdoers. Justice is exposure. Justice is alignment. Justice is reversal. Justice is restoration. Justice is the clearing of your path for what comes next. Sometimes the greatest form of justice is not watching someone fall. It is watching your own life rise into its rightful shape. Heaven intervenes not only to correct what was done, but to prepare you for the next level of your purpose. The unjust attack activated a spiritual law. When harm is directed at someone carrying divine assignment, heaven raises a standard against the forces that created that harm. Standard is protection. A standard is a boundary. A standard is a declaration in the unseen realm. That says enough. And heaven has declared enough over your situation. The warfare sent against you will not continue in the way it once did. The confusion projected onto you is being scattered. The darkness that attempted to cloud your direction is losing its grip. You are stepping out from under shadow and into the light of divine favor, not in a way that makes you arrogant, but in a way that makes you unmovable. One of the first signs of heaven's intervention is the discomfort now rising in those who wronged you. They may not show it outwardly, but internally something is trembling. Their stability is gone. Exposure feels imminent. This is heaven placing weight on their conscience, reminding them of their actions, causing them to see themselves with uncomfortable clarity. Notice the difference. This pressure is not directed at you. It is directed at them. They touched someone marked as protected. They stepped into territory they were never granted access to. They crossed a boundary they did not understand. And now their spirit is registering the consequence of crossing it. Some will respond by doubling down, trying to control the narrative harder. But that often accelerates exposure because desperation makes people careless. Others will respond by retreating, by distancing themselves from the harm they helped create. Others will respond with genuine remorse. Each response reveals something. Each response is information. At the same time, clarity is also appearing in the minds of those who misunderstood you. People are beginning to see truth. They are perceiving your heart accurately for the first time. They are recognizing the injustice with fresh eyes. Motives that were once hidden are being illuminated. Intentions behind the attack are becoming visible, sometimes through small inconsistencies, sometimes through patterns people can no longer ignore, sometimes through the quiet testimony of your integrity over time. This sudden clarity is shifting the entire atmosphere around you. Conversations are changing. Attitudes are softening. Unexpected support is rising from places you never anticipated. And this is how heaven moves, not always through dramatic spectacle, but through a series of repositionings that gradually become undeniable. Heaven uses people to deliver blessings, to carry messages, to stand with the chosen during seasons of transition. And right now, those people are being positioned around you. Some will be new connections. Some will be old connections returning with clearer eyes. Some will be unlikely allies who suddenly get it without you needing to explain. Pay attention to who shows up with sincerity rather than curiosity. Pay attention to who brings peace rather than drama. Pay attention to who honors your boundaries without negotiation. These are signs of alignment. Heaven also intervened through protection you never saw. The attack did not reach its intended target because there were forces surrounding you, blocking deeper harm. You may never fully realize how many spiritual dangers were intercepted, how many traps were dismantled before you encountered them, how many curses were returned to sender, how many opportunities for greater damage were quietly neutralized. But heaven saw every detail. You were defended before you even knew you needed defending. What was meant to destroy you was redirected. What was meant to break you was neutralized. What was meant to silence you became a catalyst for your authority. Even the losses, yes, even the betrayals carried hidden protection within them. Because some things had to be removed from your life precisely because they could not follow you into your next season. And here is a truth that may land deeply. The intervention happening now isn't only about justice. It's about repositioning. Heaven is moving you away from environments, relationships, and situations that cannot support where you are going. What felt like loss was actually protection. What felt like betrayal was redirection. What felt like isolation was preparation. Heaven removes what cannot accompany you. And sometimes that removal happens through conflict, not because you were wrong, but because the path needed clearing for what is coming. The fury rising in others is part of this plan. Their reaction pushes truth into visibility. Their awareness adds pressure to situations that were hidden. Heaven often uses people to hold up the mirror of truth. And right now that mirror is being positioned in front of those who caused harm. Their own actions are circling back to them. Their own words are echoing in their ears. And the field quietly, steadily, irreversibly is correcting itself. Meanwhile, you are being steadied, strengthened, prepared. So if you feel the shift, trust it. If you sense the atmosphere changing, honor that intuition. Keep your posture clean. Keep your frequency high. Not as a way of pretending pain never happened, but as a way of refusing to let pain define you. Because what is being built in you is greater than what came against you. And soon, sooner than it may look, truth will not merely be felt, it will be seen. Their own intentions are becoming undeniable. This is divine exposure in motion, not as a spectacle, but as a living, unfolding correction. You can feel it in the subtle shifts. The way certain conversations stop mid-sentence, the way certain people suddenly avoid your name, the way their confidence loses its edge. Heaven is rewriting the narrative. Those who spoke against you will fall silent, not because you demanded silence, but because the old story no longer holds. Those who judged you will reconsider their stance, not because you argued your innocence perfectly, but because the atmosphere around the truth has changed. Those who doubted you will begin to see evidence of favor they cannot explain away, and their usual logic will fail them. Because once divine intervention begins, human interference becomes irrelevant. Nothing can reverse the shift heaven has initiated. The story is being rewritten in real time, and you are about to witness how drastically different the next chapter looks from what your enemies planned. They wanted a conclusion where you stayed small, where you stayed confused, where you stayed reactive, where you stayed trapped inside the meaning they tried to assign to you. But heaven does not let the final sentence be written by shadow. Heaven writes in reversals. It takes what was used to shame you and transforms it into credibility. It takes what was meant to isolate you and turns it into alignment. It takes what was meant to break your spirit and turns it into authority. Another dimension of intervention is restoration. The Most High restores what was taken, but rarely in the exact form it left. If you were hoping for a simple rewind, you may be surprised by what restoration actually looks like. Peace returns, but deeper because it is no longer navi. Clarity returns, but sharper because it is forged through discernment. Strength returns, but more grounded because it is no longer dependent on approval. Opportunities return, but more aligned with your actual purpose because you are no longer willing to accept what is misfit for your destiny. You are entering a season where things begin coming back to you better than before, stronger than before, more perfectly matched to who you've become through the fire. The attack did not delay your destiny. It refined you for it. What tried to derail you accelerated your formation. What tried to make you doubt yourself gave you the chance to build spiritual muscle you would not have built in comfort. Heaven uses pain as a doorway in justice, as a launching point opposition, as fuel for elevation. Every tear you cried planted a seed in spiritual soil. Every moment you endured without turning bitter built endurance you will need for what is ahead. Every unjust experience prepared ground for breakthroughs that would not have been possible without the depth you gained. You are not the same person who entered this trial. You emerged transformed, and heaven honors transformation with opportunity. This is why you feel different, even if your environment hasn't fully caught up yet. Something in you is no longer negotiable. You can sense what is real now. You can smell falsehood. You can recognize manipulation. Your spirit has learned the difference between comfort and alignment. That change will shape what you accept, what you refuse, and who can access you. So take a moment privately within yourself and choose the energy you are carrying forward. Not as a slogan, not as performance, but as a true intention. Because intention is an energetic signature. The universe responds to what you consistently embody, not what you occasionally say. The word that rises in you, peace, courage, clarity, restoration, freedom, devotion, matters because it becomes a directive. Trust it. Now let's address what was truly exposed through this experience. When someone strikes without cause, when they operate from shadow against someone walking in light, their true nature eventually surfaces. This season has not only revealed your strength, it has unveiled the character of everyone around you. Heaven allowed the attack to pull back the veil on intentions. You are now seeing hearts as they actually are, not as people presented them to be. Some revealed their internal state without realizing it. Their actions reflected what had been hidden inside them for years. Envy that was suppressed suddenly became obvious. Bitterness disguised as politeness became visible. Insecurity masked by confidence showed itself clearly. Resentment dressed up as concern exposed itself in the way it enjoyed your discomfort. The attack did not create these qualities. It exposed them. Your presence, your endurance, your purity of heart functioned like a spiritual mirror. When they struck at you, they revealed themselves. People wear masks until pressure arrives. And when pressure comes, masks crack. Heaven is not surprised by what they did. Heaven saw their motives long before the action was taken. But you needed to see it too. You needed to understand who was truly beside you and who was positioned against you. Sometimes the Most High allows an attack not to harm the chosen one, but to reveal truth you would not discover in peaceful moments, truth that only emerges when darkness attempts to strike. And notice how revelation worked on multiple levels. Those who remained silent during your struggle exposed themselves as well. Silence is a form of revelation. A refusal to defend someone being attacked unjustly shows exactly where the heart stands. Some weren't actively against you, but they weren't for you either. They chose neutrality in moments when neutrality equaled betrayal. And you must understand this without becoming cynical. Not everyone who is quiet is malicious. But not everyone who is quiet is safe for your destiny. If someone can witness injustice unfolding and remain quiet to preserve their comfort, they are signaling the limits of their integrity. That does not make them evil. It makes them unqualified. Heaven used their silence to show you who could not walk with you into what's next. Because the next season of your life requires spiritual weight, people who can carry truth when it is unpopular, people who can remain steady when the atmosphere turns hostile. Your purpose cannot be supported by fragile loyalty. Another layer of revelation unfolded among those who pretended to support you. When the attack came, their true alliances became apparent. Words shifted, tone changed, presence disappeared. Support that was once loud became quiet. People who used to check on you suddenly forgot. People who used to celebrate you started diminishing you. These shifts were not accidental. They were spiritual signals. The attack forced individuals to reveal where their loyalty actually resided. Heaven used the situation to remove people who weren't meant to continue into your next chapter. Your destiny requires purity in your circle, Not perfection, but honesty. Not constant agreement, but aligned intentions. The attack cleaned the spiritual atmosphere surrounding you. It exposed what was contaminating your environment. And yes, even those who claim to love you revealed truth. Love is not proven in comfort. It is revealed in conflict. Anyone can stand with you during seasons of blessing. Only those genuinely connected to your purpose will stand with you during seasons of trial. When the attack happened, responses exposed hearts. Some who claimed loyalty failed the test. Others previously overlooked became unexpected pillars of support. Heaven rearranged the roles of people in your life. Those who were once central became distant. Those who were once distant stepped closer. This rearrangement is not random. It is divine reorganization. And there is a reason divine reorganization feels so disorienting at first. Your nervous system was accustomed to certain patterns, even unhealthy ones. You were used to trusting certain voices. You were used to giving access to people who did not honor it. You were used to carrying relationships that were not carrying you. When heaven reorganizes, it does not always feel like comfort. Sometimes it feels like loss, but the loss is often the release of dead weight. The attack also exposed your character in contrast to theirs. While they revealed jealousy, you demonstrated patience. While they revealed cruelty, you maintained discipline. While they revealed deception, you embodied honesty. While they revealed insecurity, you showed strength. Heaven allowed the situation to create a divine comparison, not to shame them, but to highlight the difference between one who walks in alignment and one who operates under shadow's influence. That contrast is now visible not only to you, but to everyone observing. Those who doubted you are seeing clearly. They see how you responded under pressure. They see how you handled injustice with grace. They see how you refused to lower yourself to your attacker's level. This spiritual maturity is causing hearts around you to shift. This is why people are feeling fury on your behalf now. They see what they missed before. They see who wronged you and who protected you. Truth rises, and now it is standing undeniable before them. Another revelation that emerged is this: not everyone walking with you is qualified to carry the next level of your destiny. Some individuals carried envy so deep that your elevation terrified them. Others carried resentment so intense that your presence disturbed them. They didn't hate you because you harmed them. They struggled because your growth confronted their stagnation. You cannot take people like this into your next season. They will sabotage what they do not understand. They will resent what they cannot embody. They will compete with what they were called to honor. Heaven used this attack to separate you from those who were draining your spirit without you noticing. Revelation isn't always comfortable, but it is always necessary. The Most High cannot elevate a chosen one while they remain surrounded by hidden enemies. The attack revealed the pretenders, the weak-willed, the ones who crumble under pressure, the ones who prioritize belonging over truth. Heaven cleared your environment and exposed what needed exposing, so you can walk freely into your purpose. But revelation does not stop at exposing wrong hearts. It also reveals right ones. Some individuals who remained quiet for a long time are now feeling compelled to defend you. Their sudden boldness isn't coincidence. Heaven is stirring them. They see truth. They feel the injustice. They sense divine presence around your life. Their spirit recognizes your assignment. They are being spiritually pushed to honor what they once overlooked. Sometimes people have to watch you survive the fire before they understand you were never ordinary. Sometimes it takes time for hearts to mature to the point where they can support what is actually on your life. This is also a season where your enemies are being confronted by their own darkness. They are being shown who they truly are. Heaven is forcing reflection, not because you cursed them, not because you plotted revenge, but because spiritual law demands accountability when boundaries are crossed. They may try to hide it outwardly, but inwardly they feel exposed. They feel the spiritual weight of what they did. They feel consequences approaching. They feel the discomfort of standing against someone heaven marked. And you may notice a sign that appears almost mundane, but is deeply telling avoidance. Certain people will avoid your presence, avoid eye contact, avoid conversation. They will become busy suddenly. They will keep interactions shallow. They will disappear from spaces where you are visible. This avoidance is not just social awkwardness. It is spiritual discomfort. They do not feel comfortable near you because the light you carry reveals their hidden intentions. They cannot stand in the presence of someone whose energy makes pretense difficult. Your clarity makes their masks feel heavy. Your steadiness makes their manipulation feel obvious. Your peace makes their chaos look loud. Their distance becomes a confession, and in that confession is freedom for you. Because you no longer have to question yourself in the same way. You no longer have to chase explanation from people who were never committed to truth. You can let their silence speak. You can let their avoidance reveal. You can let the field continue its correction without trying to control it. This is divine exposure in motion. This is heaven rewriting the narrative. This is restoration taking shape. And as the story shifts around you, the greatest gift will not simply be that others finally see the truth. It will be that you stop needing them to. You will move forward lighter, cleaner, more aligned with a circle refined by revelation and a path cleared by intervention. And when the next chapter opens, it will not look like what your enemies planned. It will look like what heaven promised. The revelation of character is one of heaven's greatest protections. It is not merely information, it's insulation. You were never meant to walk blindly among those quietly wishing for your downfall. You were not meant to trust people who smiled to your face while silently competing with you. You were not meant to stay emotionally tethered to individuals who found comfort in your struggle or secretly enjoyed your confusion. Heaven has removed the veil. What you see now is not your version and not their version, but the divine version, the one that aligns with spiritual law and exposes reality as it actually is. The attack that came against you was unfair, unprovoked, and deeply painful. It cut in places you did not expect to be cut. It disturbed your sense of safety, your sense of belonging, your sense of justice. But it also served a purpose beyond what your mind could see at the time. It separated genuine from false, loyal, from deceptive, aligned from misaligned. It drew a line between your past circle and your future assignment. And this revelation, this clarity about who is truly with you and who is not, is the foundation upon which heaven will now build your elevation. This wasn't the end. It was the unveiling. And soon the world will witness the next phase of what heaven is doing in your life. What we've explored so far has touched the surface of something much deeper, the way unjust attacks function as frequency tests within the consciousness field. When pressure comes without cause, it does something profound. It forces your internal signal to become visible. It forces your values to show. It reveals whether you will transmit fear or transmit truth, whether you will echo the frequency of the attack or become the conscious broadcast of something higher. In that sense, the trial was not only about what happened to you, it was about what was produced in you. When you begin to understand this system, how internal frequency shapes external experience, you stop living as a passive receiver of life and start living as an intentional transmitter. You stop unconsciously absorbing the environment and start consciously shaping it. And that shift, the move from unconscious transmission to conscious broadcast, is one of the most decisive transitions a person can make. It's what turns survival into mastery. One of the clearest signs that heaven entered your story is the shift you're witnessing in people's hearts. What was once unnoticed is now being recognized. What was once ignored is now being acknowledged. What was once dismissed is now stirring emotions in others that they cannot explain. People who once showed indifference are suddenly becoming aware of the weight of what happened to you. Their spirit is responding before their mind understands why. And that distinction matters. This is spiritual pressure unfolding with precision. The Most High has begun touching the conscience of those who observed your suffering. They may not have spoken during the attack. But now their silence feels heavy. Their heart feels unsettled. They feel conviction rising inside them. They feel an internal discomfort that doesn't fade with distraction because it isn't psychological guilt alone. It is spiritual awareness waking up. This shift isn't random. Heaven is awakening dormant spiritual senses, reminding them that they witnessed injustice and must now confront what they saw. Some people are experiencing guilt, not because they personally caused harm, but because they remained silent when you needed support. Their spirit is unsettled because they now understand the gravity of what happened. They are realizing that neutrality in the face of injustice is not neutrality. It is participation by omission. And notice how the awakening unfolds. They begin to remember details they previously dismissed. They recall moments they rationalized. They see the expression on your face when you tried to hold yourself together. They hear the tone in someone else's voice and realize it was crueler than they allowed themselves to admit. They recognize that the story they accepted was incomplete. When the conscience awakens, it rewinds the record. It forces honesty. They see the purity with which you responded. They see the strength you displayed. They see how you held discipline when others expected you to unravel. That contrast is stirring them. Their hearts are being pulled toward compassion in a way they cannot resist because your endurance has become evidence that truth was with you. Others are feeling anger on your behalf. And this anger is not rooted in personal loyalty. It is rooted in revelation. It is the holy discomfort that rises when a person realizes something was wrong and should have been stopped. They feel the injustice, the imbalance, the weight of what you endured. They may not have had courage to confront the situation earlier, but now truth is becoming undeniable. Their spirit senses that what was done to you crossed a boundary heaven does not tolerate. That is why their fury feels different than ordinary outrage. It isn't performative. It isn't about winning. It's a response to divine truth rising within them. They can't unsee what they now see. They can't comfortably return to the old narrative. There are individuals who once doubted you but are now seeing you with new eyes. They recognize sincerity where they assumed strategy. They see the purity of your intentions. They see that you didn't provoke the attack. They see that you remained grounded when others tried to destabilize you. And as they witness the consistency of your character, something in them softens. Pride loosens. Humility enters. Respect awakens. Spiritual truth has a quality that ordinary judgment does not. It humbles people without humiliating them. It corrects perception. It reorders what the heart calls important. And when it moves, people begin to feel reverence, not because you demanded admiration, but because they sense authority on your life. Some people are even being drawn closer to you. They feel a pull to support you, compelled to defend you, motivated to stand beside you in ways they never felt before. They may not express it openly yet. They may not know how to apologize. They may not know how to enter the conversation without admitting what they previously ignored. But their spirit has aligned itself with your journey. Heaven is shifting their hearts so they can play a role in your next season. This shift is preparing the right people to meet you at the right time. At the same time, the shift in hearts is exposing hidden loyalties. Individuals who stayed neutral are realizing that neutrality is not possible in spiritual conflict. Heaven is reminding them that they cannot serve truth while standing in silence. That reminder can feel like pressure because it is pressure. It presses people toward alignment. It forces decision. It dissolves the comfort of ambiguity. Those meant to support you will feel drawn to you. Those misaligned will feel pushed away. That separation may look like ordinary social movement. People drifting, people changing routines. People quietly pulling back. But spiritually, it is reordering. And it is merciful. It protects you from carrying the weight of relationships that are not designed for your calling. Some people who once supported your enemies are now feeling ashamed of their alignment. They are beginning to recognize the darkness they sided with, even if it was subtle. They look back at their actions or their silence and feel conviction pressing against their spirit. Heaven is showing them the nature of the injustice. Their hearts are shifting not only because of what they saw, but because of what heaven is revealing to them now. And do not underestimate how far-reaching this shift is. It isn't limited to those closest to you. Even those who observe from a distance are feeling spiritual tension. Truth surrounding your situation has traveled farther than you realize. Hearts are being stirred even among those who only saw fragments of your story. They sense something sacred in how you handled the storm. They sense favor resting on you. They sense that the outcome will be significant. People can feel when a life is under divine correction. They might not have language for it, but they feel it. This same shift is also causing people to reconsider your enemies. Individuals who once stood with them are now reevaluating their choices. They're seeing the cruelty that was disguised as confidence. They're seeing insecurity behind behavior they previously misread as strength. They are noticing how quickly your adversaries moved into shadow when given the opportunity. And as these observations accumulate, influence begins to drain away from the wrong side. Heaven removes influence from those whose character cannot sustain it. Those who walk in truth cannot remain close to revealed darkness. Not for long. Eventually, they distance themselves, not always out of virtue, but out of spiritual self-preservation. Darkness becomes heavy when it is exposed. The shift in hearts is not something you caused. It is something heaven is orchestrating. You didn't manipulate anyone. You didn't plead for support. You didn't demand loyalty. Heaven is moving without your interference. When a chosen one remains aligned with truth, when they refuse to retaliate with the same darkness they are facing, heaven fights for them. Heaven stirs hearts. Heaven awakens conscience. Heaven lifts veils. Heaven exposes hidden things. Heaven draws people toward the side of righteousness. And this shift is also preparing the environment for your elevation. When heaven is about to raise a chosen one, the positions of those around them must be rearranged. Some require removal. Others require softening. Some require awakening. Others require revealing. This reorganization is happening now. People are being spiritually repositioned to either support your growth or distance themselves from it. No one remains in the same place they held before, not permanently. The field is too active now. The correction is too strong. You must also understand that this shift is creating witnesses. Heaven is gathering people who will see your rise and testify to the truth of your journey. These individuals will remember what was done to you. They will remember how you responded. They will remember the moment the atmosphere changed. They will remember the intervention. Their testimony will strengthen your influence, not because you need public validation to know your worth, but because your story carries instruction for others. Their memory will validate your transformation. Their presence will confirm your elevation. Witnesses matter because they anchor truth in collective consciousness. They make it harder for the old narrative to return. Even the hearts of those who harmed you are shifting. Some feel regret. Others feel confusion. Some feel fear of spiritual consequence. Others feel overwhelmed by the weight of truth being revealed. Their reaction is not your concern. Heaven is dealing with them. What they feel is not simple punishment, it is conviction. Conviction always precedes either transformation or judgment. Either they allow truth to reshape them, or they resist until resistance becomes its own consequence. The shift in hearts is evidence that you did not walk through the attack alone. Heaven was with you. Heaven defended you. Heaven exposed truth. Heaven stirred conscience. Heaven softened hearts. Heaven opened eyes. All these movements confirm that your story is not ending in pain. It is moving toward divine vindication. And you may begin to notice something that feels strange at first: people treating you with more reverence, more caution, more respect. This is not necessarily because they suddenly became better people. It is because heaven has marked you. People can feel spiritual authority when it rises. They may not call it that. They may describe it as something different, a presence, a confidence, a glow, an energy. But what they are sensing is the imprint of the Most High around your life. They are responding to what heaven has placed upon you. This heart shift is part of your preparation for elevation. You are not meant to rise in the presence of those who misunderstand your worth. Heaven shapes the environment before it lifts you. It removes what would contaminate the next season. It positions support where you will need it. It ensures that when the elevation comes, people will know why it happened. They will remember the unrest they felt before truth surfaced. They will remember the anger that rose in them unexpectedly. They will remember the way their conscience would not let them stay asleep. They will remember what they witnessed. And in remembering, they will understand that heaven was orchestrating everything not to entertain but to correct. This shift is not the end. It is the sign that something greater is approaching. Heaven has begun to move on your behalf, and the hearts of people are the first evidence of that movement. It begins internally in conscience, in conviction and discomfort, and then it manifests externally in changed conversations, in softened attitudes, in restored opportunities, in repositioned relationships, in doors that open at the precise moment you are ready to walk through them. And now we arrive at what you have been walking toward, the divine turnaround. This is the moment where heaven reverses what was done against you, restores what was taken from you, and elevates you in a way that makes it undeniable. The Most High has been guiding your steps the entire time. What was meant to erase, He will amplify you. What was meant to discredit, He will refine you. What was meant to reduce your influence will expand it. And the most powerful part of this turnaround is not what changes around you, but what has already changed within you. You are emerging with clarity, with discernment, with integrity forged under pressure, and with a circle cleansed by revelation. You are emerging as someone who has seen the underside of human nature and refused to become it. You are emerging as someone who has been tested in the field of consciousness and chosen a higher broadcast. The unveiling was protection. The correction is already underway, and the turnaround is approaching with precision. The attack that once felt overwhelming is now becoming the catalyst for your rise. What once seemed like an interruption is revealing itself as an initiation. What once felt like a threat to your future is now proving it was a threshold, an intense passage through which your spirit was refined, your discernment sharpened, and your authority awakened. Heaven has examined the details of how you carried yourself when it would have been easier to collapse. It has weighed your endurance, the purity of your heart, the restraint you practiced when provocation invited reaction, the obedience you showed to truth when shortcuts would have been tempting. And because you remained aligned in spirit, because you refused to surrender your integrity for temporary relief, the divine turnaround has been activated in your life. A divine turnaround is not merely a shift in circumstances. It is a shift in spiritual authority. Circumstances can change and then change again. People can offer support and then withdraw it. Opportunities can appear and then disappear. But authority is different. Authority changes how you move through every environment. It changes how your presence is received. It changes what can attach to you and what cannot. It changes what gains momentum in your life and what loses it. It becomes the invisible force that makes the unseen reorganize around you. You're stepping into a phase where the weight of what you carry becomes unmistakable. People will begin to sense it before you speak. Environments will respond to it without being told. Opportunities will open because of it. Your presence will carry a different spiritual signature, calmer, clearer, more defined, less negotiable. Heaven is clothing you with a new level of favor, and this favor will speak louder than any words you could ever assemble to defend yourself. One of the first signs of your divine turnaround is that weapons formed against you will begin to lose their power. What once felt sharp will begin to feel dull. What once caused anxiety will begin to feel strangely light. Situations that used to trigger fear will no longer grip your nervous system the way they did. Voices that tried to intimidate you will fall silent, not always because they became kind, but because their influence is fading. Individuals who once stood boldly against you will begin to retreat. Their plans are collapsing. Their confidence is withering. Their strategies no longer land. Their words no longer carry the same gravity. And notice the critical truth here. This is not happening because you fought them on their level. It is not happening because you out-manipulated them, out-argued them, or outperformed them. It is happening because heaven has withdrawn the power they once held over your story. There are seasons where people are permitted to test you, and there are seasons where their access expires. You are entering the season where access expires. Another sign is the sudden clarity of your path. Where there was confusion, there is now direction. Where there was hesitation, there is now certainty. Where there was spiritual fog, there is now revelation. This clarity may not arrive as a loud voice. Often it arrives as quiet, knowing an inner steadiness that makes certain choices feel obviously right and others feel obviously wrong. You will feel drawn toward decisions that align with your next season. You will feel nudged away from what once felt familiar but was secretly draining you. Pay attention to these shifts. They are evidence that heaven is actively guiding your elevation. And clarity is not only about what to pursue, it is also about what to refuse. You will find yourself less willing to negotiate your peace, less willing to entertain confusion, less willing to chase validation, less willing to explain your worth to people committed to misunderstanding it. That is not arrogance. That is discernment. It is what happens when the spirit becomes grounded in truth. You stop begging doors to open. You walk toward the ones that respond naturally to your frequency. Another part of your divine turnaround is the restoration of dignity. The attack was meant to strip you of confidence and weaken your identity. It was designed to make you question who you are, to make you feel small, to make you doubt your voice, your instincts, your value. But instead, it strengthened you. It revealed that your strength was never dependent on comfort. It was rooted in something deeper. You stand taller now in spirit. You walk with a deeper understanding of how the world works, how people move, how truth operates, how character reveals itself under pressure. You carry wisdom that only emerges through spiritual testing. Heaven honors those who pass such tests. And one of the ways heaven honors you is by restoring what was damaged through the attack. Your reputation will be restored not necessarily through dramatic announcements, but through the slow collapse of false narratives and the steady rise of evidence. Your peace will be restored not as a fragile peace, but as a stable inner order. Your authority will be restored not as control over people, but as alignment within yourself. And people will begin to see you for who you truly are, not for the lies that were told about you. Your divine turnaround also includes a reversal in perception. Those who once judged you will begin to respect you. Those who misunderstood you will begin to seek understanding. Those who overlooked you will begin to recognize your value. Heaven is shifting how people perceive you because truth is rising. Your character has spoken louder than the attack. Your endurance has spoken louder than the lies. Your silence has spoken louder than your enemies. And now heaven will speak on your behalf in ways that cannot be debated. Sometimes heaven speaks through outcomes. Sometimes it speaks through timing. Sometimes it speaks by placing you in rooms you didn't force your way into. Sometimes it speaks by opening doors that were previously sealed. Sometimes it speaks through the sudden softening of hearts. But however it manifests, the message will be clear: you were never the one in the wrong. You must also understand that your turnaround is not only about restoration, it is about elevation. Heaven is lifting you into a higher spiritual position. You are stepping into increased authority, deeper insight, greater influence. Your spiritual weight is increasing. And because of this, the Most High is preparing new opportunities for you, opportunities that match who you have become, not who you used to be. Opportunities that were once blocked will open. Doors that were once closed will respond to your presence. Paths that once felt unreachable will become accessible. Not because life suddenly becomes effortless, but because resistance has been dismantled. The field around you is being reorganized. What once pushed against you will no longer have the same force. Another sign of your divine turnaround is that those who opposed you will begin to face the consequences of their own actions. Heaven is not cruel, but heaven is just. Spiritual law is consistent. What is sown is reaped. Those who sowed harm will face the discomfort of their choices. They may try to avoid it. They may try to rebrand themselves. They may try to shift blame, but the spiritual realm cannot be negotiated with. Their plans will fail. Their influence will diminish. Their alliances will crumble. Not because you are seeking revenge, but because truth is an environment that darkness cannot thrive in. And it is important that you hold the right posture here. Their consequences are not your mission. Their downfall is not your assignment. You do not need to watch them closely. You do not need to measure your healing by their punishment. Heaven is dealing with them. Your responsibility is to stay aligned, to remain clean in spirit, so you do not become entangled in the same frequency you were delivered from. Your divine turnaround also involves unexpected support. People you never imagined will step forward to lift you. Individuals who were once silent will speak in your favor. Helpers will appear at the perfect moment. Heaven often uses unlikely individuals as instruments of blessing. Sometimes it is the person who watched quietly for months and finally finds the courage to speak. Sometimes it is the stranger who offers an opportunity without knowing the full story. Sometimes it is the overlooked ally who becomes a pillar. Do not be surprised when someone you least expect becomes central to your elevation. Heaven is orchestrating every detail. Another part of your turnaround is the strengthening of your spiritual voice. You will notice that your words carry more weight. When you speak, people listen with greater attention. It won't necessarily be because you are louder. It will be because you are clearer. Your insight will deepen. Your discernment will sharpen. You will sense things more accurately. You will recognize patterns sooner. You will understand spiritual movements with greater precision. Heaven increases spiritual authority in those who prove trustworthy under pressure. The season that tried to silence you has made you more resonant. And with that resonance comes a new responsibility to speak with integrity, to use your voice as a channel for truth, not as a weapon for ego, to communicate from alignment, not from reaction. This is part of your elevation, learning that your voice is not just expression, it is influence. The divine turnaround also reveals how deeply protected you are. Looking back, you will realize that what could have destroyed you was blocked. What could have weakened you was redirected. What could have shattered you was softened by unseen hands. Heaven protected you silently when you did not even know what was happening behind the curtain. And now heaven will bless you openly. The protection you received in the dark will manifest as honor in the light. The restraint you practiced when nobody applauded will become credibility. People can feel. The tears you cried when no one comforted you will be transformed into compassion that makes you powerful without becoming hard. The prayers you whispered when you thought nothing was changing will be revealed as seeds that were germinating underground. You may notice blessings coming in waves, not one blessing here and there, but multiple blessings arriving in alignment. This is a sign that your season of delay is ending. The obstacles that held you back have been removed. The resistance that surrounded you has been dismantled. Your life is entering a period where movement becomes rapid, clear, and undeniable. But understand what makes this acceleration safe: the depth you gained. Without the refinement, the acceleration could have destabilized you. Without the maturity, the open doors could have distracted you. Without the discernment, the increased attention could have tempted you into pride or fear. Heaven does not only open doors, it builds capacity. And you have been built. Your divine turnaround will also expose the spiritual maturity you gained. You no longer react the way you once did. You no longer fear what you once feared. You no longer carry the insecurities that once shaped your decisions. Heaven used the attack to refine you, and what emerged is someone stronger, wiser, more grounded. Your future decisions will reflect this. Your new season will require it. One of the clearest signs of your turnaround is peace. Not temporary peace that depends on everything going your way, but deep spiritual peace. A peace that calms your heart, even when circumstances are still in progress. A peace that does not depend on people's approval. A peace that comes from alignment. You will notice that the same situations that once disturbed you no longer have power over you. That is not because you became numb. It is because heaven grounded your spirit in truth. Peace is evidence of divine order. And divine order is the atmosphere in which elevation becomes sustainable. The divine turnaround also means your enemies will witness your elevation. The Most High does not hide the rise of a chosen one. He displays it not to inflate ego, but to establish testimony. He positions it in the open. He allows those who doubted you to see your growth. This elevation is not for pride. It is for witness. Your rise will show what heaven can do for someone who remained faithful in suffering, for someone who refused to become corrupt under pressure, for someone who chose integrity when bitterness would have been easier. Your turnaround will also speak to others who are struggling in silence. Your story will become a guide. Your endurance will become an example. Your transformation will become a beacon. Heaven is using you not only for your own journey, but for the strengthening of others. Your victory will carry impact beyond your personal life, because it will restore hope in people who thought endurance was pointless. It will show them that alignment is not wasted even when it feels invisible. What is happening to you is not small. It is divine. You are stepping into a season where heaven is rewriting your story. The attack was the last attempt to stop your elevation. It failed. Now heaven is turning everything in your favor. Everything that was meant for harm is being reshaped into purpose. Everything that was broken is being rebuilt. Everything that was lost is being returned in greater measure, not always as the exact thing you lost, but as the thing you truly needed. You are stepping into a divine turnaround that will not be reversed. Heaven has declared your rise. Heaven has declared your restoration. Heaven has declared your victory. And nothing in the natural realm or the spiritual realm can interfere with what heaven has already established. You are standing at the beginning of a new chapter. The old pain is closing. The old battles are ending. The old limitations are falling away. A new spiritual horizon is opening before you. And as you walk into it, you will realize that everything you endured was preparation for everything you are about to receive. The quantum field has been reorganized around your frequency. What was once resistant is now responsive. What was once closed is now accessible. What was once fighting against you is now working for you. And the most beautiful confirmation will be this: you will feel in your own spirit that the season has shifted. Not because life becomes perfect, but because your authority becomes stable. Not because challenges disappear, but because fear disappears. Not because people suddenly become righteous, but because truth becomes unavoidable. This is the divine turnaround. It is already in motion. This is not positive thinking. This is spiritual law in motion, an order that operates with or without anyone's permission. An intelligence woven into reality itself. Positive thinking tries to convince the mind to feel better. Spiritual law does something deeper. Rearranges the field when a soul refuses to surrender its integrity under pressure. When a soul maintains purity through an unjust attack, something registers in the unseen. When a heart refuses bitterness despite provocation, the atmosphere changes. When a spirit chooses alignment over revenge, a threshold is crossed. At that point, heaven does not consider responding, it responds. Not because you earned a reward in a transactional way, but because you became coherent with a frequency that invites divine order to reassert itself. The universe is not neutral. It is responsive. It responds most powerfully to the ones who hold their center when everything around them is trying to knock them off course. And you did that. You held your center. You maintained your frequency. You protected your heart. You did not let chaos rewrite your identity. You did not let provocation define your language. You did not let injustice force you into becoming the very thing that harmed you. That is why the turnaround now manifesting in your life will leave no doubt that something supernatural has intervened. People will ask you what happened. They'll want a simple explanation for a shift that feels too dramatic to be normal. They'll wonder how doors opened that were sealed. They'll notice how the narrative flipped. They'll see how pressure that once oppressed you no longer touches you in the same way. And your only answer will be truth. Heaven saw what was done and heaven responded. The truth is coming out not because you forced it, not because you demanded vindication, not because you spent your energy trying to prove yourself to people committed to misunderstanding you. The truth is emerging because truth rises. It surfaces. It becomes undeniable. That is its nature. And when truth is connected to someone marked by divine purpose, its emergence is not gentle. It arrives with force. It reshapes everything around it. It pulls hidden things into daylight. It dissolves illusions that once felt permanent. It reveals what was always real beneath what was loudly claimed. Your enemies thought they controlled the narrative. They believed their version of events would stand. They assumed their influence could keep truth buried. They assumed the right people would never see clearly. They assumed time would erase evidence. They assumed silence would protect them. They assumed your restraint meant weakness. But they forgot something crucial. They were not dealing with just another person. They were dealing with someone heaven had marked. And when heaven marks someone, that person operates under a kind of protection that human schemes cannot penetrate. That protection doesn't always prevent the initial blow. Sometimes the blow is permitted as a test, as a refinement, as a separation. But it always governs the outcome. It ensures the ending does not belong to darkness. It ensures the narrative cannot remain distorted forever. The truth coming out will not be subtle. It will be clear, witnessed, undeniable. Not because heaven enjoys spectacle, but because divine order must be restored publicly. When a lie was made public, when a person was misrepresented in ways that affected their life, their relationships, their reputation, their emotional safety. This is not revenge. This is divine order, returning to its rightful place. This is spiritual law manifesting in the material realm. This is what happens when heaven decides it is time for clarity to replace confusion, for light to dispel shadow, for reality to overcome illusion. You are about to witness a level of vindication you could not orchestrate yourself, even if you tried. Human vindication is often partial, messy, delayed, and dependent on people's moods. It can be negotiated away. It can be twisted into new rumors. It can be dismissed as coincidence. But heaven's vindication is different. It is thorough. It is precise. It is undeniable. It leaves no room for continued distortion. When heaven vindicates, everyone sees clearly. When heaven speaks, everyone hears in the language that matters most: outcomes, exposure, reversal, alignment. And this is why the current moment feels strange. You may not yet see the full picture, but you can feel the shift in the air. The fury rising in other people's hearts is preparation. The shifts in perception are foundation. The exposure of your enemies is clearing the field. The restoration of your dignity is rebuilding your platform. The softening of hearts is repositioning relationships. The closing of doors is protection. The opening of new paths is invitation. All of this is happening simultaneously, guided by wisdom beyond what you can calculate, timed with precision, beyond what you can control. Your job is not to force the unfolding. Your job is to remain aligned. Stay in your center. Maintain your frequency. Protect your peace. Continue walking in discipline, purity, and truth. Let heaven handle the details of your elevation. Let the universe orchestrate the unfolding of your vindication. Trust that what is meant for you will find you, and what is not meant for you will fall away without you chasing it. The chosen ones who are hearing this right now know who they are. You felt every word in your spirit before it was even said. You have been living this reality, confused about why undeserved attacks came against you, wondering when justice would arrive, holding faith even when evidence seemed absent. This message is confirmation. What you have been sensing is real. What you have been hoping for is close. What heaven has been preparing is about to manifest. And there is something powerful about making a declaration not as a performance, not as superstition, but as alignment. One word that captures the transformation you are stepping into. One word that signals the field of possibility, not because the universe needs your permission to move, but because declarations pull your consciousness into coherence with what is arriving. They teach your nervous system to recognize the new season. They train your mind to stop looking back for proof and start looking forward for instruction. Because this is not passive consumption. This is active participation in the elevation of consciousness. The more people embody this understanding, the understanding that integrity under pressure activates protection, that purity under injustice invites correction, that restraint under provocation becomes authority, the more the world begins to reflect that truth back. You survived what was designed to destroy you. You maintained purity when everything around you was chaotic. You held discipline when everyone expected you to break. You chose alignment when revenge would have been easier. And because of this, heaven has initiated a sequence that cannot be stopped, a turnaround that cannot be reversed, an elevation that cannot be prevented. The attack revealed who you are. The response reveals what you are becoming. And what comes next will reveal why heaven protected you so fiercely. You are not simply recovering. You are ascending. Not because you became flawless, but because you became coherent. Not because you never felt fear, but because you did not let fear lead. Not because you never felt anger, but because you refused to let anger become your identity. You are thriving in a way that cannot be explained by circumstances alone. You are being transformed by what tried to consume you. Every tear you cried watered seeds that are now breaking through the soil. Every moment of confusion cleared space for clarity that is now flooding in. Every experience of betrayal revealed loyalty in unexpected places. Every season of isolation prepared you for influence you are about to carry. Nothing was wasted. Nothing was random. Everything served purpose, even when purpose wasn't visible. And the favor arriving in your life is not generic blessing. It is specific, targeted, customized to your needs and your calling. Heaven knows what you require for your next level, and heaven provides with precision. Doors you didn't even know existed will open. Opportunities you could not have imagined will present themselves. Connections you never expected will form. Resources you thought were unavailable will become accessible. This is what happens when heaven decides it is time for a chosen one to rise. The entire universe reorganizes itself to accommodate that rise. Do not misunderstand what this means. It does not mean you will never face resistance again. It means the laws of limitation that governed your past no longer govern your future in the same way. It means you are no longer stuck inside old permissions you unconsciously gave to fear, to doubt, to people's opinions, to environments that were not aligned. It means that what once felt impossible becomes inevitable. What once felt blocked becomes available. What once felt distant becomes immediate. You are stepping into a reality where favor precedes you, where doors open before you arrive, where provision appears before you ask, where protection surrounds you without needing to be announced, where wisdom flows through you without strain, where discernment becomes instinct, where alignment becomes your default, not your struggle. This is the turnaround in full manifestation. And yes, your enemies will see it. Your doubters will witness it. Your critics will have to acknowledge it. Not because you need them to, but because heaven often turns opposition into testimony. The very people who tried to bury you will become the ones who cannot deny that you rose. And those who stood by you, those who honored your heart, when it was easy to misunderstand, those who believed you, when it was unpopular, those who supported you quietly when the atmosphere was hostile, will be blessed by proximity to what heaven is doing in your life. Because the shift is not only personal, it is atmospheric, it is environmental, it is collective. Everyone connected to you will feel the effects of your elevation, whether they recognize it as spiritual or not. This is your moment. This is your season. This is your divine turnaround. The truth is coming out, and with it comes vindication, restoration, and elevation prepared long before you saw any evidence that it was on the way. You did not merely survive the attack. You passed the test, and now you are receiving what is reserved for those who choose purity over revenge, discipline over reaction, faith over fear. Walk forward with confidence, not the fragile confidence that depends on applause, but the steady confidence that comes from alignment. Walk forward with peace, not the temporary peace of perfect conditions, but the deep peace of divine order within you. Walk forward with certainty that what heaven has started, heaven will complete. The best of your life is not behind you. It is ahead of you, and it begins now. If this message reached you at the exact moment you needed it, anchor it. Return to it. Let it reset your internal tone. Not because repetition is magic, but because the nervous system learns through repetition. When you rehearse truth, you become more fluent in it. You become more able to live from it under pressure. And if someone in your life is walking through their own unjust attack, share this with them. Not merely as comfort, but as a reminder of spiritual law. Truth rises integrity, stabilizes purity, activates correction. When you share consciousness expanding truth like this, you are not only helping them, you are reinforcing these frequencies in your own field. You create a ripple effect. You accelerate coherence. The act of sharing truth multiplies its power. Now, if you have been sensing parallel versions of yourself, glimpses of a you that is calmer, clearer, bolder, more whole, a you that already embodies the elevation we've been discussing, understand what might be happening. Sometimes when the quantum field reorganizes, the future self becomes louder. The version of you that has already stepped into authority begins to pull you forward. It feels like a call. It feels like remembrance. It feels like an invitation that won't let you settle for your old limits. There is often a window of opportunity in moments like this. A convergence where decisions carry unusual weight, where alignment creates rapid movement, where hesitation becomes costly. Recognizing this connection, recognizing that your next self is not a fantasy, but a frequency you can embody, can be the final piece that completes the turnaround. So stay aligned. Stay coherent. Keep your heart clean. Let truth rise. Let heaven finish what it started. Because this is not positive thinking. This is spiritual law in motion.